The moment his water pump clicked on, I quietly walked outside and turned off my main water valve. I didn't yell. I didn't knock. I didn't accuse him. By sunrise, he had no power, no tenants, and no foo asterisk, Tory. Asterisk, if you've ever dealt with entitled neighbors or dreamed of getting the perfect revenge without even breaking a sweat, this story is for you. Hit subscribe, give this video a like, and share your own sweet justice moment in the comments. Let's dive in. Asterisk. Had just bought a house in the middle of my country's capital. Sounds glamorous, right? In reality, it was a fixer barely livable, no proper front gate, just a padlock on the main door. And half-finished renovations left abandoned for years. The previous owners, family friends who hadn't lived there for over 3 years, they sold it cheap because they needed the money, and I was more than happy to take it off their hands. But what they didn't mention, at least, not in detail, was the neighborhood. Asterisk, day 1. I pull into my new garage, and there's someone else's motorbike parked inside. It's just casually sitting there like it belonged. So I did what any annoyed homeowner would do. I pushed it out into the street. Later that day, an angry man pounded on my new gate. I didn't answer. I watched from the window as he finally gave up and took the bike. Charming introduction to the neighborhood, right? Asterisk. Days passed and things started settling. The no parking sign I put up helped. But TH*N? One day, while taking a shower, I noticed the water pressure drop dramatically. Odd. What's more odd? At that exact moment, I could hear my neighbor's water pump humming next door. Asterisk. Asterisk. Now, this wasn't just any neighbor. This was an old man living on the bottom floor of a asterisk 3-story home. The top 2 floors, rented out 2 tenants. The guy was known to be grumpy and very vocal about hating the fact that my house was sold. My friends had warned me he'd been an issue, and now he was using my water. Didn't have solid proof yet, but the pieces were falling into place. Asterisk, I started testing the pressure every time I heard his pump click on, and every time, like clockwork, my pressure dropped. When his pump stopped, mine returned to normal. The kicker? For years, the water bill for this property had been oddly high even when no one lived in it. It had been chalked up to old leaky pipes. But now the truth seemed pretty obvious. This man, this entitled, grumpy, manipulative man had been siphoning water from my house for years. Asterisk. Asterisk, manipulative man had been siphoning water from my house for years. Now let's be clear. Water is cheap in my country. $5 a month at most. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. This man had trespassed, tapped into my pipes, and helped himself. And somehow he thought he'd get away with it because, what? I'm new. I'm young. He's older and bitter and used to doing whatever he wants. No, but I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to fight fire with fire. Instead, I turned to something far more effective. Legal sabotage. Asterisk. I waited until a Monday. I was home, heard the familiar click of his water pump turning on. It was time. I walked to my main water supply valve and shut it off. Simple, clean, legal. The neighbor's pump stayed on, trying to pull water that wasn't coming. Now here's the thing. These pumps don't shut off unless the water tank upstairs tells them it's full. When there's no water to fill it, the pump just keeps running and running and running. What I expected was a burned-out pump, maybe a costly repair. What I didn't expect, that this old man's home had ancient wiring from the 90s that couldn't handle the constant power draw. By 3 a.m., the damage was done. The wiring shorted out. The pump blew. The entire house lost both power and water. And since he was renting the top floors, it didn't take long for the screaming to start. Asterisk tenants shouted. One of them packed up and left 2 days later. Both filed police complaints. In my country, landlords are legally obligated to provide uninterrupted access to water and power. There's no excuses. So now the neighbor who stole my water for years was on the hook for $500 in police fines. Full refund of both tenants' security deposits complete. Rewiring of his house, a new water pump, and worst of all, he couldn't rent out the place again until everything was fixed. Asterisk a couple of days later, he knocked on my gate again. This time, he asked if I had turned off my water. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Oh yeah, I had a new leak in the pipe and turned off the supply while I waited for a plumber." He stared at me for a long second, poker face. But I could see it, the twitch in his lip, the clench in his jaw. He knew I knew, and I knew. He had no power anymore, literally, and figuratively. I smiled. He left, and I made sure to schedule my plumber to finally remove any external pipes that could lead off my property. Asterisk, in the end. I didn't just fix my water pressure problem. I eliminated a potentially dangerous neighbor. I exposed a leech. And I did it without saying a single threatening word, breaking a single law, or raising my voice once. All I had to do was turn off the water, asterisk sometimes. The most powerful revenge doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from letting people's own greed burn them down. And when you're patient, precise, and a little petty, karma needs no invitation. Asterisk if you enjoyed that cold, calculated revenge, drop a like, hit subscribe, comment below. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed or pulled off? Let's swap stories, and maybe your tale will be the next one we bring to life.